This story, it's International Women's Day, and the Motsepe Foundation is playing a leading role. It's held a number of gatherings to help support and empower women. Let's speak to co-founder and CEO of the Motsepe Foundation. That's Dr. Precious Moloi-Motsepe. Doctor, good morning and thank you very much for your time. So as part of several activities or initiatives this International Women's Month, you are today hosting the Ring the Bell for Gender Equality. Talk to us about this particular initiative.
Thank you very much, and happy Women's Day to you and to all your viewers. Today is really significant, International Women's Day, where we celebrate achievements to date and reflect on what needs to be done to ensure that we can speed up the process of gender equality. The Motsepe Foundation, as well as partners, are here today at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We rang the bell earlier, opening markets and sounding the bell and getting people to sit up and think about how they are intentionally advancing the cause of gender equality. We know that capital markets are very important in terms of supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs. We heard today that only 7 of the top 100 JSE listed companies, the large ones, are led by women. So we need to promote more women in leadership positions. We need to ensure that there are more women who own businesses and women entrepreneurs. We can do this through our capital markets program that will help to fund small businesses as well as women-owned businesses.
Doctor, these figures are honestly disturbing. 7 out of 100 is really merely scratching the surface, but most certainly a powerful symbol, the one of ringing the bell. But talk to us about your GWEL summit that you held or hosted last week under the theme From Rhetoric to Reality, a very powerful clarion call. Just unpack that for us. When you say move away from the rhetoric to reality, what does that reality look like?
Well, it is a sobering reality, and that's why we want to urge everybody to put hands on deck. At the Gender Equality, Wellness and Leadership Summit that we held at the Convention Center, again in partnership with women in business, these institutions of learning, as well as government leaders who were present, we were honored to have the Secretary General, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations address us, as well as a director from the World Economic Forum. And what they highlighted is that for Africa it will take 98 years before we get to gender equality if we continue at this pace. What the World Economic Forum's Nadia also highlighted is that we could increase the GDP of the continent by $316 billion if we enlist more women and help women to participate in our economies. So those two figures are really, really significant. And what do we need to do? We need to ensure that we make workspaces and workplaces more conducive to women feeling like they belong in those spaces. It's not enough just to invite women to be in workplaces and not include them, have them feel like they are part of the organization or the company and hear their voices. They also mentioned that it is important that we continuously promote mentorship, supporting women who have been promoted to leadership positions, because we know that leadership can be very, very lonely places. We need to make sure that women leaders do not listen to the voices that sometimes are in our heads that tell us that we are not enough, that we cannot do the job. And we need to take this in our stride and sit in, lean in, and really occupy our rightful spaces in business and in society. And lastly, we believe that it is through collaborations and not necessarily competition. Companies on the stock exchanges, we need to be sharing tips on what works, what seems to work for companies, and what's not working, to ensure that the data is out there and everybody understands what needs to be done, and that number of 98 years can actually be lessened.
So I take it that you're not only challenging men to open up the space for us, but us women as well, to be our sisters' keepers and propel these other women into these spaces of leadership.
Oh, absolutely. We were here with Dr. Judy Dlamini as well as Bonang Mohali from Business Unit South Africa, and they also made that point. Leave the door open, actually put a wedge to make sure that door is still open. Take someone with you as you sit around these tables. And Professor Mohali also was very, very vocal in saying that our patriarchal system ensures that men who benefit from the old patriarchal system should actually consciously make sure that they open doors for women in their workspaces. If you look around the boardroom and you do not have enough women, you should be asking yourself, what is my responsibility to ensure that we have more women around the table? Companies, human resource departments need to consciously make sure that as they are filling in spaces, they search for and find women who deserve to be around the table. And lastly, it is important that we make sure that we don't recycle the same women on boards.
Yes.
There are so many women in our country that are intelligent, hardworking, that we should give an opportunity to. So it's incumbent for companies to open up, and then for women as well to bring in other women who should be sitting around boardrooms.
And before I let you go, I cannot just not ask this question around art or fashion being a way for us to affirm our femininity and just show our power as well. Fashion Week is coming up. Just talk to us about the role that fashion has played for affirming women in certain spaces, even of leadership.
Thank you for that question. Actually, fashion, the art, the visual art are such a critical component of opening up society. It is important for people, not just women, men and women, for us to embrace our culture, our tradition, and to communicate who we are through dress, through the visual arts, through our music, in what we eat and how we communicate. It is important because we need to leave that legacy to our children, and we need to also open up spaces globally that are not opened up to us for our cultures, for our African fashion, and for our African perspective. We need to boldly take up our space within the cultural sector, educate ourselves, educate our society, and educate the world about the knowledge and the value of African culture through dress, through our music, as well through the visual arts.